And we're back with another episode of On the Record with Tiffany here on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. And we can also be seen on the African American Network television, where we have a local feel with a global reach. And today I am here with one of my favorite guests, Laura Thompson, the creator of TAAN TV.
Hey, Tiffany, how are you?
Feeling feisty and fabulous, just like you.
Watch it, watch it.
So, Laura, it's Black History Month,
Okay.
and I cannot think of a greater current Black history maker than you. Everyone that I know, and I know you don't like being referred to that way, but you really have blazed a trail here in San Antonio and far beyond San Antonio in terms of marketing and television for with a focus on the Black audience.
Yes, yes. I think it's
So,
important.
yeah, and if there wouldn't be shows like On the Record with Tiffany if it weren't for you blazing a trail before all of the rest of us. You know, I don't have to do the hard work that you've done. I get to I get to walk in behind you after you kick the door open. So I wanted our audience to know about you because some of what you did, you've been seen not just by the African American community, but by the American community at large as a unifier. And some of what you're doing right now speaks to that. So I want you to tell us, like, one, how did you envision TAAN? Where did TAAN come from? Because it's not the, it's a completely different concept. It's not the average idea.
Well, I used to watch TV like all of us did, and I didn't really see a lot of African Americans in key positions or in front of the camera positions. I really didn't know about the behind the scenes part of it, but I know when I would go to concerts in different places, there were always non-African Americans that were engineers and that worked behind the scenes to make things happen. And so I just wanted to create something where we owned it, and we can showcase our talents and our stories, tell our stories and reveal our stories on a platform that was designed just for us to do that.
So you wanted to create your own for us, by us in television.
Yeah, that little FUBU name stuck around, didn't it? FUBU. There's FUBU television too now. Also,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But you were the first who came out with the idea that we could have a television network that was this kind of network, because we've seen other cookie cutter versions of a television network, but it's not the same kind of content that you have.
I used to talk to the people with, like, Black Planet came out the same time as I had the idea about the African American Network. And so we would talk to each other. We were just both brand new, I had a website at the place that I worked. They gave us a free website, so that was my website. It's the African American Network. And Black Planet had their website, and they did news about, different things that related to African Americans. And then there was another one, too, that came out all around the same time. I think Black Planet, one of them, Huffington Post bought. It was Black Voices, I think, maybe. I don't know, but Huffington Post bought those. But they weren't designed for television. They were just a news outlet online. And
Wow.
so we talked a little bit about what our visions were, and some of it stuck, and some of it didn't. Some of them got bought out, which is Black Voices, I think, is the name of that site. They got bought out by Huffington Post, and so now that's why you see, I think it's Huffington Post Black, because they do the Black news.
Yes. Well, that's a little bit, and that's part of what I'm saying about you and what anyone can see about what you've done is that you've been around for a long time. So before we saw this iteration of the internet with YouTube and everybody starting their own little version of news. You started out with the first set of people
Yes, I'm
doing
kind of
internet.
like a pioneer.
That's right. You've been a pioneer in this space, in digital media. You've been a pioneer in digital media. So what has that been like for you? What is it, when you see all of the others falling off, how have you maintained your longevity?
I just don't give up. I just, I don't know, when it doesn't work or it appears that it doesn't work, I make it work. I'm just like anybody else, sometimes.
No, don't stop it.
Well, I'm not finished. Sometimes I feel, like giving up or not wanting to do it, but then I wake up the next morning with all these ideas.
So that's gone.
Or either I'll talk to somebody that same day, and the next minute I'm back on track. So, but it's just something that I think is needed. I think it's important that there's a space for primarily African Americans to share their stories, and we help you to reveal those stories and provide a platform to stream those stories and broadcast those stories. And so,
what's your support system like doing something as massive as TAAN TV?
So when you say support system,
I mean your personal support system. Like who do you rely on in those moments when you're like, I'm sick of this. I don't feel like doing this right now.
So I have this alter ego.
You're Sasha Fierce.
And so that alter ego is the fabulous, friendly, feisty, fierce person that you see, that's the face you see. It may not necessarily be what I'm going through at the time, but I just believe in what I do, and I believe in possibilities. I believe that dreams come true, but you got to work. I had a book called On My Way to the Top, and one of the statements in the introduction was I dreamed of all of the things I wanted to do, but I didn't dream of the work that it would take to get there. And TAAN TV has been probably the hardest thing that I've ever done because there's so many different elements to making it work. But I've been thinking over the weekend, and I've kind of broken it down, and it's not, I've just been getting off track from what the mission and the purpose of TAAN TV is. But I've been thinking over the weekend, and it's only a few pieces to it. And if I would just focus on those few pieces, I wouldn't feel like running away.
Or like you're walking into the room, running through the room with your hair on fire.
Right.
And that's the truth about a lot of things, like the systems of it. When you get down to how do you make something work, systems. That's how you get things to work and focus.
It's just like an HEB. You get it, you get the food, it has the price on it. You know, you after you finish, you have a basket, you go and you check it out, and that's it. And then they have a financial system on the back end that, you know, calculates everything and determines what the profit is. You know, they have their employees, and those employees have to do a certain thing a certain way. All the food is coded, and so they scan it. So it's just you're right, it's a system.
And once you get that system in place, you're off to the races. Because the most difficult part of any business, you already have down, and that's the vision and the idea generating. That's the most difficult part, is being cutting edge, being on the cusp of what's happening. You already have all that. It's just the systems. I'm every time I look at TAAN TV, I'm like, where are we going to be in 5 years?
In 5 minutes.
Exactly, because visionary leadership is not easily come by, especially in this day and age, because so much of funding and what is acceptable, quote unquote, is based on what's already been done. So everybody wants to duplicate what's already been done. They want it to be the next BET, the next exactly like this one, just a little teeny tiny bit different, but not too much different. How do you overcome that with what you're in your head when people are trying to put you in this same box?
I don't know that they are. They probably are. I don't know. But there's billions of people in the world, and so the people that like the content that we have to offer will gravitate to it. You know, we can look at analytics and tell who's watching and when they're watching and what they're watching. And so we can use those analytics to create more content that people like. But, you know, people have so many choices these days that, you know, only a few get those, you know, millions and millions and maybe billions of subscribers or views. And so, you know, you just have to be authentic, come up with good stories. A lot of people like the stories that we're putting out. I've run into people, even a lady at HEB in line. She asked me what I did, and I told her I was the creator of a digital television network. And I was telling her about the partnership with Fox and NBC. And she was saying, well, what kind of content? And I told her, she said, I heard about that. She said, can y'all do, it was the Set It Off Senior Style. And she said, can y'all do something for single parents? And I said, I'm sure they can. I'm sure the rules apply to single parents too. But she said, no, but specifically, she said, I would never marry a man that had kids. And I said, well, do you have kids? She said, yeah, I have 4 of them, but I wouldn't marry I wouldn't marry somebody. I said, oh, okay. But she said, but I saw that on Fox and WOAI.
And see that.
So you don't never know who's watching.
When you're looking for content, how can people get to you and talk to you about content? Do you have a place where you're screening screening content ideas?
Not really. It's not really in place yet. That's back to those systems. But people, I might see something on social media that catches my eye, and I'll reach out to them. Or in most cases, people reach out to us. And so they reach out to us in our messenger box on our either Instagram or Facebook or our info at TAAN.tv email address. Or they'll reach out to me on my personal, they'll be in my personal messenger box. So it just depends.
So in terms of content, because your content just since the last time we've interviewed you, your content has changed. You've increased your content dramatically. You got Bees Buzz. You've got, I mean, you've added so many things. JR Knows It All.
Mm-hmm. She
I'm,
thinks she knows it all. No, but JR Knows It All. It was a 6-episode series, a season, and it just finished. People can still binge it. It's still online. They have some other shows coming up that they're filming right now. They're filming the second season of that JR Knows It All. So then we have a guy that he's from Dallas, but he moved to Oklahoma, and he has a episode or season coming out with episodes called Hell Yeah. And so that's
so what's that about?
I really can't say yet. I really can't say yet. But it's about some young men that grew up in the same neighborhood, but they went in different directions, and life happened, and they got back together and started doing some of the things that they did when they were younger.
Oh, that sounds intriguing and like it might be fun to watch.
So we'll see. That one's supposed to come out in April.
The name for sure draws you in.
Mm-hmm. We have a podcast called Overcoming coming out in March.
Well, the name says it all on that one.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a lady she's dyslexic. Mm-hmm. And the lady, her partner that's on the podcast with her, her co-host, she works with students that have dyslexia. And so they want to tell the story about, the lady wants to tell her story about what it's like to have dyslexia, and the other one is talking about how to identify it and, how to work with kids and people that have dyslexia. So.
And that's a huge problem, dyslexia.
But they call it overcoming because they're going to talk about overcoming other topics. They started off with just the idea of doing dyslexia, but then they decided that they would do other topics that people overcome that have problems with dealing with. They may have problems dealing with.
That's good. That's if right now in this time, everybody could use some hope. So that sounds like but in terms of your content, you literally go across the board because you have news shows, and you also have comedy shows, then reality shows with the senior set it off dating.
And we have the coffee break and sports talk and
that's right.
In the room. So we have a lot of different.
You have
a variety of different types of shows to attract different types of people.
Now, what made you go after content in that way? Because most people they're not that ambitious, in terms of this wide variety of content.
I personally have a lot of different interests. I think people have a lot of different interests also. And they see things, they see content, a variety of different types of content anyway. They just don't see content with primarily or predominantly African American. And so it's from a different perspective. And just like, any other culture or ethnic group, we all have certain lifestyles and do certain things and need to solve certain problems. And so it's no different than any other network, with the exception that the focus is African American driven.
So why? I know you said that when you looked at television, you didn't see faces that looked like yours and mine. Now that you're changing that, how are you portraying those faces? What are you doing that's different from what we're seeing in some of the other outlets?
ours is predominantly African American, but it's just people, telling their stories from their point of view. The world is filled with all types of different perspectives, and so this is just another perspective delivered by a group of people that have they have the same issues. They have dating issues. If we talk about set it off, everybody wants to learn how to date and wink wink get a mate, or that's something that I won't say we're all trying to do, but a lot of people are, trying to connect and find that knight in shining armor, or that Cinderella. So, that's something that everybody can relate to, but it's just African American women talking about it.
What I love about this is that you go beyond. You go to different age groups, because often we act like if you're not in that primary demographic that everybody's looking at, 18 to 45, that's it. A lot of content is made just for that group, and it's not made for people over 45. Like we all just stopped dating and stopped living.
Right. But there's younger people that watch that show as well, because they want to know too.
What's going on?
They want to know probably more than the seniors. How do I get a mate? How do I get a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband? How do I do that?
And it's interesting looking at other people's lives, just period, and listening to their perspective is interesting.
But what's different about TAAN TV too is that we don't have a lot of commercial breaks. People can just go in and watch, and it's not this tight programming and this tight time limitation, where people can just go in and feel comfortable and watch commercial free. We hope it's not always like that, but right now it's commercial free. So.
Well, that's changing as more and more advertisers begin to jump on board with TAAN TV. You've been listening to On the Record with Tiffany, and my special guest, Laura Thompson, creator of the African American Network Television, which is expanding all over Texas. Please come back and listen a little bit more, because Laura's going to tell us what inspires her and how she views Black History Month and herself as a trendsetter in the Black community. So we've been talking about TAAN, but I want to switch gears to what you're here for and what you really represent to many of us in the business world and in the media world, and that is a person who has blazed the trail for all of us, opened the doors for many women, African American women, and the concept of African American characters on television, African American TV from our perspective. We see a lot of stuff happening right now racially across the country. What are your thoughts on what we have seen? There seems to be a lot of tension, a lot of racial tension. So what do you think about our reactions to this?
Well, it's an old story. I think it may be televised more. Plus, we got new generations of people coming up that are seeing things different, just like we did when we were growing up. A few generations before us, there were slaves, and then we weren't. So, we protested, and there was a revolution and an evolution of African Americans' positions in this country. You know, we marched and protested and, you know, went to a certain level. And it kind of simmered down. I was doing the civil rights movement, but it kind of simmered down. But as new generations come about, you know, they watch their parents going through certain things. And, I mean, just like myself, I was saying, I'm not going through that. I wouldn't be picking cotton. I wouldn't be I sit at the front of the bus. I wouldn't be doing this. And so it keeps bubbling up. And it's always kind of been focused on black and white. And, you know, primarily, I think, because of, you know, the story that's been told and the way that African Americans have worked and come up in this country. So we're viewed by kind of like the past, you know. But the young people are not really having it, and so, you know, they stand up. But it's an old story. It's a power struggle. I think. I think race is just basically a power struggle, but we don't really look at the people side of it. And so the media, and me being in the media and, you know, kind of understand that they kind of craft these stories on certain situations, and so that same story continues, and it's kind of like it runs. And so that's what it's shaped our beliefs about who we are and who other people are, you know, about what we see on TV. Our relationships outside of the media sometimes is not necessarily like that at all, except for people that kind of thrive on it. But it's not. The world is not.
But the reality is the world is not black and white.
Yeah, right.
Like, you know, I love talking to you personally. And that's part of the reason why I like having you on and asking questions, because the way that you think is vastly different from the average person. And it's something that we all could use hearing, you know, because one, you know, it's visionary thoughts, but it also, like, all of a sudden just pulls you out of the think tank that we've all been, because like what you were saying, there's a story that's crafted and everyone just follows down the line of the storyline. No one says, wait a minute, but when I'm interacting with Bill over here, my next door neighbor, we get along great. It's not the division that we're being told exists between all of us is not there.
Right. It's like we sneak and have these private relationships and friendships with people, but publicly, you know, we have to play a certain role.
Our roles,
right? So it's, but everybody's just people. I was just thinking back to high school and college where I had, you know, just people that I liked. I shun from saying friends because I don't really know what that means, but people that I associated with and that I liked were not all African Americans. You know, they were white, they were Hispanic, they were Asian, they were black, they were just people
that you liked.
That I liked. And so I didn't, but I grew up as a proud African American young girl and young woman, and now a seasoned woman. I still have a great connection to who I am as an African American woman. But I like all kinds of people. And, you know, not that I'm best buds with everybody in the world, but, you know, there's something about everybody that you can like or dislike. It just depends on what you put the spotlight on. But still, those are sometimes private relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the public relationships or, in the workplace,
Mm-hmm.
They're in the healthcare system. They're just in these different pockets. They're in neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
So, it just, so we've created these stories about who's good and who's not good publicly, who's smart and who's not smart,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things. We've created, those scenarios or stories, because that's all they are, stories that we created. But we created beliefs, and look at, just look at COVID, for example. Before probably January 2020, we hadn't heard of COVID. Now it's a norm to wear masks. Some people don't want to, and that's okay, I guess. But when the vaccination came up, and so it's these stories change
Mm-hmm.
the way we live and the way we look at life and the way we look at people. And so that's just an example of what mass media can do. Is not that it's a true story or not a true story. It's just they craft the belief that if you don't do certain things, this is going to happen. If you're this kind of person,
This is going to happen.
You're not going to be accepted over here, or you may be great. Like I saw.
And when you say we, you're talking about mass media,
Mm-hmm.
because
Or just people, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mass media helps us to shape those opinions and views. And so
that's why it's so important that we're mindful of that.
And so we create that's why all of these different types of mediums are coming out, like YouTube, where you can have tell your own individual stories. So, a lot of the smaller mediums or influencers, are changing the way we listen to mass media.
So how do you, when you, in relationship to the African American experience, how do you see this? What the media has done in regards to us?
In regards to African Americans?
Yes, in regards to how we're viewed and how that is shaped. Well, in regards to African Americans, how we're viewed.
Yeah, well, whatever they put on TV about somebody and whatever story they tell about somebody, that's the way, people view them. And so there's been a lot of negative things that have been portrayed about African Americans and different types of people on the media that leads people to believe if they allow themselves to be programmed like that, to believe that that's how a certain group of people are, and sometimes that's the only information they have.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
and here you are with TAAN TV offering a different.
And a lot of people that work in the different mediums, they want to hear those positive stories too.
Mm-hmm.
People have friends that, they know are not bad, like they're portrayed, but even as an African American, if you constantly see stuff on TV, you're subject to say,
whoa. I'm
but
going to need to grab my purse
Right.
and move to the other side of the street
Right.
when I see this group of young men coming along, you know?
so, media plays a significant role, and so with TAAN TV, we just wanted to show the other side, or some different types of lifestyles, and provide different types of stories that are real in real life, but that are not shown on TV. And so because of that, we have an opportunity. We have a segment on Fox and WOAI's midday shows to, allow people to go on and tell their stories to a larger audience. We recently connected with Austin CBS, and we're going to be doing some of the same things, maybe a little bit different, but we're going to be telling African American stories on their 6 o'clock news. And we've got an invitation to talk to some news directors in some other markets, but I won't mention those until they're solid. But so we're on TAN TV, and then on right now 3 major networks in Texas.
That's a very significant thing. And from what I can see, the impetus behind it and what they're seeing is the unifying way you're presenting African Americans. It's an uplifting experience to look at TAN TV and see all of the different interactions there. Mm-hmm. And the portrayals are more of what I grew up with and what I see in the community. What we see on the day-to-day. It's not the crime and all this other stuff that people try to portray us as.
Although some of the crimes are real, some of them are not, but it's just the way it's portrayed.
Yeah.
But so we just have an opportunity to help people to reveal their stories on multiple platforms, and some of them are major networks.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I love the way that TAN never takes other people out. You don't have to take somebody down in order to lift us up. It's always it's beautiful the way that just real life is being portrayed on TAN, as opposed to what we see in a lot of other markets. Because I don't think that there's anything like that in any other ethnic market right now, because what we see portrayed on network television isn't even what regular people are living like to begin with.
I know, it's funny. So it's just what we provide is it's entertainment, but it's still real life. It's not like made up, scripted stuff.
Mm-hmm. And it's what people are moving towards. It's what interest is trending towards.
Mm-hmm. So I've watched it. I've watched media, period, television, radio. You can't watch radio, but you can listen to it. But everything is, it's driven by still major networks and entities, but some of the content is driven by influencers, and people like you, just like with the situation you're in with your radio show. You're plugging into a larger entity. And it makes you have a bigger voice because you reach more people. So.
And that's, a lot of network television is now we're starting to see them being influenced by the the influencers.
Of course. Well, because there's those people have followers.
Mm-hmm.
So people are drawn to people that have followers.
Well, there's a reason why people have followers. It's because they're saying something that those individuals want to hear and want.
But they're not hearing everywhere.
And they're portraying at least something in some part that reflects the individual that's listening. So, I'm thankful for TAAN TV that we're able to get a voice out there that reflects the public more than, because TAAN reflects us, but it also shows the other side of our interactions with other groups as well.
It's just people.
Just people. People are people. What are your thoughts on Black History Month?
Well,
This Black History Month.
Yeah. This particular year?
This particular year.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, a lot of people say Black History Month. I mean, Black history is all year, which it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Black History Month is a very significant month, whether it's the shortest month of the year or not. I think it's very significant to be allowed to have a group of people showcased, every day for a whole month, although they're making history all year, every day. And so a lot of people complain about, well, Black History Month is only 28 days, or leap year 29 days. But that's significant.
Yeah.
Because we're one of the only ethnic groups that has a month designated to tell our history. If you look at and we're making history every day, everybody is. But if you look at all the other ethnic groups, they're not telling history in a specific month. Well, Hispanic Heritage Month is another month, but they're not specifically a month where a lot of different other groups have an opportunity to get showcased.
And where the nation it recognizes that month. The entire United States recognizes Black History Month. So, and it is a time where we are showcased. That's one of the things, our nation, we talk about, people tend to talk more about the ills of the nation than they do about the beauty of the nation. And the real beauty of the United States is our people. All of our different types and ethnicities, the glory of our people. And whether our history is a scarred history, everybody's history is scarred with all kinds of things that didn't quite go right or weren't good or whatever. Everybody's history is. But it's a part of our history. And to have our nation recognize us for an entire month is a great thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's not something to complain about.
Somebody fought for that. Somebody fought for it, and then somebody approved it. It was a group of people that said, yeah, okay.
So that
You're
means
right.
we had to work together at some level. So let's start there and start thinking about that, because really, I love what you said about how these are stories. What we say to one another and how we treat one another is shaped by media, and often that's a story. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's
soundbite.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the truth of a situation or the full truth of a situation. It just means that works for this particular outlet at this moment, or this push at this moment.
Every story is a campaign. It's just to drive you to do something, or to give you a little bit of information about something. It's just a campaign or a story.
So my challenge to my listeners today is create your own story. Create your own campaign around the things that you know to be true, around who you are, because we all have friends of every different ethnic background. Many of us do. And we're living a life that is completely different from what we see on television. We are enjoying our friends, having difficult conversations, and living it very well together. So let's lift our voices and create our own storyline. Let's not let the rest of the world tell us who we are. Define ourselves, and we'll be much better off. Thank you, Laura, for coming on and for talking to us, because I always feel like we get better the more we hear your voice. So thank you for what you're doing on TAAN TV and for showcasing African Americans and how we actually live, which is just like every other American, just with a whole lot of style. But thank you for coming on and for sharing your life and your story with us. And I expect that you'll be on again so we can listen to more of your life, because it's like digging into history, like going to the Smithsonian for African Americans when we get to sit down and talk to you. So I appreciate you for coming on.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me on the record with Tiffany, for the record.
And you've been listening to On the Record with Tiffany on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. And we can be seen on the African American Network television, where we have a local feel with a global reach. You all stay safe. And remember, it's Black History Month. Go talk to somebody that you've never talked to before and make history yourself.